community hall, that year we had to have the school play at the Indianola Clubhouse. We were going over to the Indianola Clubhouse to have a rehearsal, and the bus, the cheese box only made it halfway up Longmates Hill and it broke down. So we had to walk from there over what is now the hill just by Taree. It's on the old one where you go around the corner, right out on the thing and look across the bay. So we had to walk to Indianola. Well, by the time we got to Indianola, a few of the guys had proceeded to knock all the insulators off the phone line, and there was a big to-do about how we had wiped out the, and I was one of the last ones, and there wasn't anything to throw at because by that time all the insulators had been broken. But those guys that broke the insulators got quite a thing. But anyway, the next year we had the community hall, so we didn't have to go to Indianola for it. The phone line at least worked.
Where did you go for news? What did you do to get your news? Radio or
Kitsap County Herald.
Kitsap County Herald.
Peter Iverson was the
Well,
first
it's the same as what's now the North Kitsap, but that was the Kitsap County Herald. In fact, my mother wrote an article each year or each week about what was happening in Kingston, and there was a thing that said what was happening in South Kingston and what was going on in Eglon and what went on in Hansville. Each one of them had their own little reporter, and it was Mrs. So-and-so had
very interesting.
So-and-so over for cake and coffee or this type of thing. But you knew you didn't have to have for the county, city or the whole north end of the county. You knew what went on because you just read the Port Gamble or the.
Was there a movie theater?
Port Gamble.
In Port Gamble.
Every Friday night we'd go to the movies.
Yeah. Actually, they had 3 movies every Friday in Port Gamble. One in the afternoon for the night shift, one at 5 o'clock. It started at 6 until 8:30 for the day for the kids, and then they had one at 9 o'clock for the late people.
How far was it to?
When we used to go to the Port Gamble to the movies, they didn't have the seats. You know, they had some of them sat on barrels, and some of them sat on. You know, just anything to.
But it was on the upstairs of what's now where the post office is, the whole upper deck.
And when we lived on the farm, we had the Seattle Times delivered in the mail. And Forsyth's always got the PI. The PI was the Republican paper, the Times was the Democrats' paper.
I think Barbara's delivered it up there to you.
No, we got it in the mail. We subscribed to the
mail.
mail.
Barbara's delivered the mail.
Oh, yes, William Barber was one of the fellows that delivered the mail.
Then we
You're
had
right.
the paper.
And he delivered milk, too.
Yeah. Then you had also the Seattle Star, because I saw it
Yes,
for a while, and then.
And the Bremertons.
Well, the Bremerton paper we very seldom got up here.
No, we didn't get that.
They didn't have anything that went north of Charleston, I think. But then in later years, I had the PI paper out around town. I had 30-some customers, and then every Saturday they would send over the Sunday editions on the ferry, and I had to go down and meet it and carry it up the dock and put it in the stores.
Well, I think originally most of the papers came by steamer.
Yeah.
Up into the 20s. Yeah, they all came by steamer.
Oh, talking about steamers. I was just a little kid and we were leaving Seattle on the Monticello.
Yeah.
That didn't take any cars because in those days in the 20s nobody had a car much. So we came over, but we got out of Seattle a little ways and they had trouble in the engine room. The steam boiler was overheating. They were sure the thing was going to explode, the boiler was going to, and there was an old-time preacher on there, and my golly, did he scare the wits out of me. Oh, Lord, help us poor people, don't let us die, and all like that. And then they turned around, went back to the dock, and we were all saved. It didn't explode.
The first one,
that was really a scary time.
The Nerada was the first one of the boats. Remember the Nerada? And they used to stop at Jefferson Dock, and when they blew their whistle at the Jefferson Dock, we used to roll out from by President Point there on this side, roll out, and they'd pick us up out there out of the skiff.
Mosquito fleet,
Mhm.
that's what they
Yeah.
are.
Well, that's why the South Kingston dock was built by Fred Newell, because
Yeah.
he used to come in from the boat in a rowboat, and half the time he was drunk and fall overboard, so he built the dock. And there's still one piling left of the old
Is
dock.
that right down there? One island? Yeah, there used to be one at President Point, one at Egmont, one at Ensville.
Well, I used to commute to school in the 30s out of Indianola on the kayak.
Yeah, that came out of Paulsville,
Yeah.
I read on that one.
yeah.
I used to have the book called The Mosquito Fleet, and it had about the Narada and the Hayak and all those
Yeah.
first boats. And I had it for a long time, and it was, the Bud Brazo's son-in-law. He worked for the ferries, retired, you know, from there, and so he talked me out of the book, so he has a copy of the book, The Mosquito Fleet, and it tells all about the Narada.
I was
and Hayak.
always fascinated by those guys. All the docks on the end had a slope down, and they used a steam winch, run up with a cable and a hook, and then hook hand trucks.
Yeah.
Man, they did
Well,
hand truck them out of there.
That was the one,
Yeah.
when we first came to Kingston, they had the slope like that.
That's right, I remember
Yeah.
that.
It came in,
Always had.
yeah, because they didn't, and then when the Puget Sound Freight Line finally got the ships with the elevator
The
on
elevator.
the front, then they did away, they filled that in, but they had that sloping one deal, and then they
Hand truck it up.
well, they check it up, and then they put it in there. Mokai's had that warehouse at the end of the dock where they put the feed.
The kick I got about at the Hayak was where you ate, for whatever you're having to eat, was along the side of the ship. And you'd say to cook or something, well, how about a piece of pie? Well, they'd come over and move you out of the way and pull it out from underneath there.
I hated that steamers. Oh, it took forever to get to Seattle.
Did you have decent radio service out here?
Oh, yeah.
You listen to the radio out of Seattle or something? Or?
Oh, yeah, we had, the Little Orphan Annie but there was, it's KJR, it's the same radio stations that you have now. KVI at that time was out of Vashon Island, and it had Buck Ritchie that was the announcer early in the morning. But you had, they said, you had KJR, KOMO, Cairo, and KVI. But I mean, you had the,
That was about it.
yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't too many.
We didn't have electricity. I was pretty
Yeah,
old
that's
before we
there.
got electricity.
Yeah.
You know, I remember my dad coming up the Hansville Road and on foot, you know, and he had this thing under his arm. First radio we ever had, Atwater Kent. A little thing like that, and all the static. I thought, oh boy, I could write down the names, the words of all these modern songs, you know. Couldn't hear them. It was too much static. Terrible lot of static on the first radios.
I have the first telephone book that was out here at Kingston.
Oh, we've got
And,
some too.
Not the books, she has the
Oh,
phone book itself.
Oh, okay.
When did
And the
people start
serials
getting
were out
phones?
here.
Hmm?
When did people
came
start
out.
getting phones?
We had always had phones in Kingston.
No,
Well, I mean, up from
You're younger, you don't
We had
remember.
phones out there.
I remember when the
The
power